So year after year, things have gotten worse with your partner. The resentment has built up and things are at an all-time low. What do you do when your partner hates you? In this video, I'm going to break down resentment, the hidden signs that most people miss, and why traditional advice usually fails. But more importantly, we're going to talk about a step-by-step guide to turn resentment back into connection. So you might think you know when your partner is upset, but subtle signs of lingering resentment often slip right under the radar. A lot of people miss these early warning signs. They're too busy or too distracted to notice the hidden resentment that bubbles under the surface. And this leads to a massive buildup of negative emotions, what we call emotional discords, that can explode into a full-blown relationship breakdown. So let's talk about the first hidden sign: changes in physical intimacy. So it's not just about sex frequency dropping off. This includes smaller gestures as well, like fewer hugs, less hand-holding, or a noticeable decrease in just casual touch, hand on the back, hand on the shoulder, etc. So for example, if your partner used to greet you with a kiss when you got home, but now stops looking up from their phone, that can be an indicator that something can be off. Another sign is increased sarcasm or kind of passive-aggressive comments. When your partner starts to make snide remarks about your habits or decisions, these can often be more than just jokes. They're your partner's way of expressing their frustration without direct confrontation. So for example, they could say sarcastically, "Oh great, another late night at work for you," when you mention a project deadline. It's really crucial to start recognizing this pattern early. This can be a very subtle sign that resentment has started to build up. The third sign is withdrawing from shared activities or future plans. So let's say your partner suddenly loses interest in date nights, stops discussing vacation plans, or seems indifferent about your shared future. This can be a massive red flag. This can be a resentment warning sign. This emotional disengagement can signal that they're kind of emotionally checking out of the relationship. So for example, if your partner used to eagerly plan weekend getaways but now is shrugging off any mention of future trips, this can be a sign that resentment is starting to bubble up. It's really important to understand these subtle signs, these changes in physical affection, these sarcastic comments, and this withdrawal from shared activities. Start addressing resentment before it spirals out of control. But here's the thing. A lot of people can fall into this common advice of, buying some flowers, buying a gift, talking a little bit more, planning a date. All of this stuff sounds like it makes sense. Just doing something to make your partner happy, right? The problem is that none of these address the root cause of the problem. In fact, what you may have found is that if there is resentment building up, that a lot of these solutions make things actively worse. What usually happens is that your partner feels resentment, and we'll talk about the core of that in a second, but your partner feels resentment within themselves. And then you, rather than getting to the emotional core of it, you try to logic your way out of it. You buy flowers, you take her on date nights, you start complimenting your partner's looks. You perform logical but surface level actions. And this actually makes your partner feel worse, because those needs are not only not being met, but they see that your attempts at meeting them are falling short as well. And ultimately, this builds more resentment. So it's really crucial to know that a lot of just traditional, conventional relationship advice can actually reinforce negative patterns within the relationship and build up much more resentment within your partner. The more that you find yourself repeating these same ineffective behaviors, the worse the relationship will get and the more the resentment will build up. And this is a recipe for disaster in any relationship. So why do these approaches fail to stop resentment? Well, they ignore the psychological complexities of relationships. They focus on quick fixes instead of addressing the core emotional needs of a partner. They create this false sense of action without any real change. Approaching resentment like this is like trying to fix a car by giving it a new paint job. These underlying issues remain completely untouched. As a result of this, as resentment starts to build up, you're trying more and more ineffective actions. So now that we know what not to do, let's talk about the real reason behind the resentment. And just before I move forward, if you do want more videos like this on repairing, growing, and building healthy relationships, then feel free to subscribe to my channel for new videos every single week. So what is the psychological reason behind your partner's resentment? Well, it's a massive accumulation of unmet core needs. So there is something called self-determination theory, and this talks about 3 psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And when these aren't fulfilled, it breeds resentment. So most people don't even realize that these needs exist, let alone how to meet them. So let's break it down. Autonomy is about feeling in control of your life. It's having the ultimate freedom. If your partner feels like they've lost independence, resentment starts to build. Competence involves feeling effective in your activities. So if you feel undervalued in a relationship, then this leads to frustration and again leads to resentment. And then relatedness is all about connection. So isolation or a lack of support creates a perfect storm for resentment, for autonomy, competence, and relatedness. These three needs, when they're ignored, they create a powerful undercurrent of frustration that manifests as resentment. And as a partner, you have such a massive influence on these needs within the relationship. So when these core needs are not met, negative emotions like resentment really start to take root. So for example, in the lack of autonomy, this is obviously the feeling that you can make choices freely. If your partner feels controlled, micromanaged, or pressured to act in ways that conflict with their authentic self, this is where resentment can build. So for example, if your partner feels obligated to change their hobbies or to agree to decisions just to avoid conflict, this eventually will make them feel trapped and bitter. Or if your actions make them feel incompetent. So remember, competence is the sense of feeling effective and capable in what you do. So if your partner feels constantly criticized, belittled, or unappreciated for their efforts, they may start to feel inadequate. And over time, this sense of failure can start to turn into resentment towards you, especially if as they start to express those feelings to you, they're being invalidated. It makes them feel less competent, like they're doing something wrong, and less understood. And this is where the relatedness side of things comes in. So relatedness is feeling connected, loved, and valued by other people. So if your partner can't even express that they feel that their needs aren't feeling met right now, if they're being invalidated, then over time they'll start to feel emotionally neglected, dismissed, and disconnected. And again, this is where resentment builds because of the lack of intimacy and support. So if they don't feel prioritized within the relationship, this leads to feelings of loneliness or abandonment, and again, resentment. So it's really crucial to understand how these unmet needs build up in small ways, but build up over time into a much larger issue. Knowing about these needs is just the first step. The real power comes with what you do with this knowledge. So resentment can be a powerful catalyst for growth in your marriage. By understanding its root causes, you can start to transform this negative energy into a much deeper connection. The biggest mistake during this time is to ignore this building resentment. That's what a lot of people would do. But as this resentment is building up, it's kind of like a volcano. The pressure starts to mount until it's eventually released. If you're feeling that your partner's resentment is building up, it's important to start one of these crucial conversations around these unmet needs. And this is what I work on with a lot of my ultra normal members, is building these crucial conversations around really specific topics within their relationship. Ignoring building resentment is not an option. It's crucial that you lean into it and learn how to develop the skills to manage these conversations around it. And if you do want to join the members and I, then join me on my free relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the same steps and tools that all of my members have used to start turning their relationships around. Just click on the link in the description to grab your spot. Now, because of this, the conversation is likely to escalate. If your partner has all of these unmet needs that are building up, this resentment is likely to come out in quite a toxic way. So being able to master this conversation is really crucial. I've actually done a deeper dive video into how to de-escalate a toxic conversation. But just in short, it's really crucial that you learn how to develop this skill. Because the more that you develop this skill, the more you'll be able to build the emotional safety for your partner to start talking to you about these things in order to start getting ahead of them in the future. So I'm going to leave you with that crucial skill on de-escalating conversations, and I will see you over there.